Let's go!
I have made observations that lead me to some serious questions about the MvC2 collection. We got to pull up the MvC2 trailer again, or the MvC trailer. Here's the thing I really wanted to talk about. When we get to Marvel vs. Capcom 2 of this trailer, and another thing that we learned from the website is that Marvel 2 is the arcade version. All these versions of the game are effectively the arcade versions of said titles, including MvC2, although MvC2, you know, people are a little bit less familiar with the arcade version, a little bit more familiar with like the Dreamcast version and stuff like that. But it is the arcade version of Marvel 2. Maybe begrudgingly to some parts of the community, they might not like that because most of the community is used to the Dreamcast version. It's an interesting choice. And then we see things like a training mode, literally is MvC2 training mode. Hitboxes, that's crazy. That has never been in MvC2 before. That's really cool. The Dreamcast one is good. And to remind everybody, the arcade and Dreamcast versions are the best versions of MvC2 that are not emulation, with a close third being like the PS3 360 version, which isn't bad. It's a lot different in many ways, but it isn't bad. So here's the crazy part. I made an observation when we were reviewing this trailer that based on the aliasing of the clown nose, not as much the characters because those are scaled sprites, but if you look at some of the backgrounds and stuff, it is not the upscaled 720p PS3/360 version that came out. We've played that version a billion times, right? In fact, it's one of the best default ways to play Marvel 2. The problem is that it was obviously unacquirable anymore, and it was on old hardware, which is not online for many people. That version of the collection ran at 720p, was upscaled, had widescreen, so it looks really good. The backgrounds are better rendered than even these backgrounds. So it's like, what I'm getting out of this is that this image that we're seeing here of MvC2 in this collection is seemingly running at native arcade hardware resolutions, which was around like 480p, which isn't bad. It's still gonna look great on HD televisions, but it's looking like it's running around 480p or something like that. So it is the arcade version. Arcade version, 480p. Yada, yada, yada. Here's the crazy part. There's been a lot of quality of life things you need to do to MvC2 over the years that people have picked up on. For example, there's no rematching in Marvel 2. You have to literally select 6 or 7 different things for each person again. And if it's in 2-player mode, both players have to make 7 selections again before you can fight. It takes a ton of time, but it has been done from fans. Fans did put rematch options into the arcade version, I believe, and modded it in the same way that fans have modded in ratio matches and stuff. We highlighted this before. Fans have modded in ratio matches into MvC2 for the arcade version, where each character on the team on the roster has a value, and you can't exceed a certain value because the top tiers are so top tier, you know? It's actually super fun. So fans have made some pretty crazy quality of life changes to MvC2. Here's the observation that I was just going to mention. Arcade version of Marvel 2 is the arcade version, but they show something right here. What is not lining up, chat? Can you see the difference? Did the arcade version have training mode? Absolutely not. There's no training mode in the arcade version. There's no hitboxes in the arcade version. All of this stuff does not come from the arcade ROM. This comes from the Dreamcast version. Which version was the PS3/360 version using to create its copy port of MvC2? That was using the Dreamcast port. In fact, I talked to the devs a few years ago during Free Marvel 2. They got source code from Capcom of the Dreamcast version to make that port. So here's the weird thing. This isn't just arcade Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And I'm wondering if this is the first trailer for this collection of games. I'm starting to put a tinfoil hat on. Maybe we haven't seen everything. I'm starting to put a tinfoil hat on, because at that point, that's a lot more effort. If there's a Dreamcast port and an Naomi port, I get it. They are similar hardware, but it isn't just the matter of, oh, your MvC2 ROM is this version. Enjoy. There's the arcade version. No, it's not. This has nothing to do with that version of the game. This version of MvC2 that is running on this background with these with this training mode, with these options, like all this stuff, this is the Dreamcast version. What the hell is going on? So now there's a big question, which actual version of the game is being run, and how are these new options operating? Are they running on the logic of the Dreamcast version, or are they running on the logic of the arcade version? Because those do have differences. Here's my tinfoil hat theory. There is a lot of missing features from MvC2 in general. Even if it was a combination and a hybrid, chat, that is so much work than any of these games and any of these collections that Capcom has done. It goes way beyond that. All this does is lead a little bit of hope for me. Potentially, we might get a more feature-rich version of MvC2 that has some of those changes. Imagine if we got an MvC2 that actually has rematching. Imagine if we get an MvC2 that also has hitboxes and hurtboxes. Cool, that's happening. But also, you know, is the arcade version, but maybe even does something like the popularized ratio matches. That would be amazing. If there was a new mode, an MvC2 that was a ratio mode, holy shit, that would be really cool. That was also one of the things that we were advocating for back in the Free Marvel 2 movement, was that, hey, you know, MvC2 is sort of bare bones. So it would be nice if, you know, we can add rematching, if we can add some of these extra features and stuff like that, because the game has really not been given like a polishing treatment. It's always just been a port of the older stuff. Yeah, what about Gambit Glitch? Gambit Glitch was fixed in the PS3 version. Is it going to be fixed in this one? We don't know, dude. There's like several things that we're going to have to test to see what this version of MvC2 is close to. Is this the Dreamcast version? Is this like the PS3 360 version? Is this like a new thing that has different new problems? I'm really curious. Right? I'm really curious to see if in this scope of the collection, this is the first trailer. So I'm wondering if there's going to be more trailers down the line that show new things. Maybe there's more features and stuff like this to the collection that meets the eye, because already this stuff is different. Yeah, no, the website lists 002234 ROMs, which is the traditional MvC2 ROMs. What MvC2 ROM has fucking training mode in it, bro? None of them. What's happening? I'm very curious what exactly is going on. Would it be possible that they splice together footage of different versions to throw their fan base off? I don't know. The website only doesn't list the Dreamcast version as a base. It lists the arcade version ROM as a base. And that's the thing. If they eventually got into the game of the arcade ROM and started adding new stages, hooking up new stages, adding trading mode features, adding hitbox, hurtbox features, that shit is a lot of work, bro. These aren't just things that flip a switch. This is like, you have to reverse engineer the fucking game for that stuff. In the previous collections, especially Street Fighter 30th Anniversary, they just dumped the ROMs and said, have fun. Capcom has never gone this far and beyond one of their old ports before. The only one that comes close is like the MvC Origins, the Darkstalkers Collection, Third Strike Online Edition, and maybe HD Remix. Like way back in the day. Everything else sort of was just like, hey, this is just some ports, right? Here's those old games back in some way. No, this is adding features. This is like a lot of stuff that was not in the arcade version. What is going on? So that's my big tinfoil hat theory. I think this entire collection, if not this version of the game, might have more features than meets the eye. I'm actually getting really excited about this. I'm genuinely curious. If it comes Evo and I get to talk to the devs about this, I'm like legit asking them, bro, what are you guys doing to Marvel 2? How the hell is it the arcade version, but you have training stage? What the hell is going on?